Today I'm going to show you how to balance a chemical equation. For this exercise, I'm going to be using a method called bubble method. And the bubble method is basically making a bubble for every element. So you want a bubble, one bubble for each element at the start. So let's add 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have 4 bubbles now. Alright, so now we want to see what the element is and how many there are of the element. So we have 2 of Cl's, so we want to add Cl and Cl. We have a Na and a Br, so Na, Br. Then let's add the arrow to so that this is the reactant and this is the product. Then it's going to be NaCl. 2 Brs, so Br, Br. So now we want to match these. That's the basically what we're trying to do by balancing chemical equations. So to do that, we need to count how many of there are in the reactant and how many there are in the product. So 2 Cl's, 1 Cl. There's no other Cl. So we want to balance that Cl. So to do that, so we can have the same amount of Cl's in this the product, we want to add another bubble with the same element. If you want to add another bubble, you have to have the same element to do so. So now we have 2 Cl's, but because we did that, we have 2 NAs, and when we go back in the reactants, we only have 1 Na. So we want to add another bubble on the Na, the reactant side. So Na, Br. We have 2 bubbles, 2 bubbles. Now let's check. 2 Cl's, 2 Cl's, 2 Na, 2 Na, 2 Br, 2 Br. So basically we have balanced this. Now what we have to do is a 1 bubble equals to 1 coefficient. So how we're going to write this is basically 1 Cl2. Coefficient is the 1, and then plus, because we have 2 bubbles, 2 Na, Br. Arrow, 2 bubbles, 2 Na, Cl, and 1 bubble plus 1 Br2. This is my final equation, all balanced and ready. So but let's do another example, and this one is harder than the one we did before. This is gonna take longer and probably is harder. So let's do what we did with the first example. 1 bubble for each element. Now let's just add a small arrow because no space. I don't have any space here. But let's see, 1 N and 3 H. 2 O, 1 N O, and H, 2 H, and O. Alright, so let's see. We want to count how many of each element there are and match it right here. Same thing we did before. So let's do that. 1 Na, 1 Na. 3 hydrogen, 2 hydrogen. So now we have to match the 2 hydrogen. So let's do that. Let's add a bubble. Since we can't really get the same amount of elements, because this is the odd number and this is the even number, we want to add another bubble here so we can get an even number. So now we can do another one of these bubbles, and we have H. So now we matched 6 and 6 here, but because we added another N, we want to match it here. So we want to add another N bubble, so NO. So let's count the oxygen now. 2 right here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 on the product side. So let's add another. But since this is basically another odd number and this is an even number, we want to do the same thing on this side like we did on this side. So let's add another one of these H2O bubbles. So now we're able to do another 2. But since we just did that, we have to do this again. And so we can add another even number. Basically, let's see. So now we can do another one of these bubbles. So right now we have 5 of the H2O bubbles and 3 of these, 3 here and 2 here. So we add another one of this bubble. It might look like a hard process, but this is actually the easiest process you can probably go through to find to balance the equation. So let's see. So now we just did we just added another bubble here, and then another 2 bubbles here. So let's just see if we matched it already. So 9, that's 6, 7, 8. We haven't matched it here and here, so we want to add another bubble to get N, H, H, H. And then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we have 12 here, so another one of these bubbles. Okay, so now we have to match this part right here. So we have 4 ends. We want to add one more bubble, one more end bubble, and we have 4 ends. So now let's count the oxygen. So there are 6 oxygen here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So we have 10 oxygen here, but we can add more bubbles here. So we now have 8, and now we have 10. So let's make sure we have this matched up. 1, 2, 3, 4 ends, 4 ends, 3, 6, 9, 12, H, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, H, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 oxygen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 oxygen. So now we have balanced the equation. Now let's turn it into a coefficient. So 4 coefficient, and it's going to be 4 NH3, and let's see, plus 5 bubbles, so 5 O2 arrow 4 NO, so 4 NO, and we're gonna have plus 6 H2O. So now we just balance the equation, and this is the easiest way to balance the equations.